Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing a brand new map, Klostertal. Klostertal, it's a bit of a tricky one to get right the first time. It always seemed to pop up in my rotation yesterday after I had a snack, so I started calling it cholesterol after a while. It's part of Wargaming's recon mission. Now what is recon mission? Recon mission is a separate queue which you can sign up to in either your tier 8, 9 or 10 tanks, where you get to test Wargaming's new maps exclusively so that they can be able to decide which ones are best, and you can give your feedback as well as also get some rewards such as premium days while playing the maps so that Wargaming can hopefully decide which ones are awesome and we as a community can have the best ones go into the game. And immediately, when you're exploring these maps, you find amazing hold down positions. Just take a look at what the opportunity that this provides. You've got a bush line, you've got a little ridge to protect your lower plate. That would be an incredible scenario for anything that can go hold down there. And talk about hold down, I'm playing the STB1 today. I'm using the new Warhammer Orc skin. The red ones go faster skin here. And as we're going to see, I had a bit of a giggle. Doesn't quite look like everyone is quite used to the new maps right now, as this FV4005 has unfortunately managed to fall down a slope, and I think the 430U is trying to help them out. But I think I can help them get back into the garage so they can pick another tank, and hopefully they won't make that mistake on this new map next time. The kinds of plays that you got to see on these new maps were understandable, right? People playing them for the first time, unsure of all of the intricate positions, mistakes will be made, and let's just get down to the meat of it today, which is, I think that this map is one of the best that Wargaming have ever put into the game. And I've only played it about 6 times, but just the intricate detail on all of the ridge lines and the way that it feels like a kind of a playground for tanks. It's almost as if they've created a Runeberg, or they've created a Himmelsdorf in parts. It just feels absolutely awesome, I guess, for a hold down vehicle. But I also did fight in other sections of the map, which I will highlight later on in my heavy tanks, that were also very effective as well. So, Klostertal, am I getting it right? Yes, I think I am. Klostertal is a really interesting one, because you've got this huge area in the middle where obviously the hold down vehicles are going to fight it out, and lots of the light tanks want to work in the bushes. But still, it's very much about trying to push the flanks. And if there's one critique I do have of Wargaming's new maps inside the recon game mode, it's that they clearly want the middle to be an area for spotting, but they want 2 flanks on the left and the right of the map, or the east of the west, whichever way you want to look at it, to be the areas that you can push. So I'm just wondering if I can be able to boost up here, do a little bit of an exploration, and it looks like maybe you might if you're an EBR, but good luck trying to get up over that ridge. It's really interesting for me that Wargaming have created plateaus, you know, sniping locations where tanks are going to be able to work, and can you imagine coming around here with the Jagdpanzer and managing to catch the vehicle? Beautiful. One thing that Wargaming has done really well with Klostertal is they've made it so that the elevation, it's significant, but it's not stupid, so that it's just whoever gets the high ground that's going to be able to win the map. They have these lovely little intricate areas, as we can see here, where we're pushing through streets, and we do have these choke points and these kill zones that you're going to have to try and be able to push through, but also still to just have these areas where you can get slightly above your opponents without feeling that you can shoot the entire map from it, just feels absolutely awesome. I think that most tank types are going to do well on this map. I think that there's a room for every vehicle. Your super heavies probably want to make your way through the west. I think your tanks with gun depression or your assault vehicles want to make your way through the east. And there are still going to be lines of fire for tank destroyers to be able to create. And while I was pushing through this area of the map, my mind was working at full speed. This is the first time I've been in this section of the map, as you would expect, considering it's a new map altogether. It's being tested inside the recon game mode. Whenever you're in a new situation, in a familiar game, there's so much new information to process. New corners, new lines of fire, new opportunities, bush lines. Are you on the edge of the map? Is there going to be anything to your left? Is there going to be anything to your right? It can be confusing, and I feel like this map, it's probably one of the more intricate ones that they've created. And I think that for that, from my perspective, it is one of, if not the most interesting of the 3 new maps that they have presented. I love the corners, I love the crossfire, I love the way that the street seems to open up into these areas where tanks don't have to be close quarters combat, and you're going to have those lines of fire. And I also like the way that they've interweaved bushes that don't feel as if they're everywhere, so there are going to be gaps where you do manage to get spotted. There are also going to be opportunities to come around the corner to use those bushes to be able to spot your opponents, to be able to get the jump on them, because not everything has the luxury of having super heavy armor. And some of the more sneaky tanks probably want to end up using the bushes to be able to outplay their opponents. The whole way that the street just, it almost feels as if you're in a real city. Some of the maps in World of Tanks, the city maps, do feel a bit formulaic, and that while this map does have, should we say, symmetry, as we can see right down the center, it doesn't feel as if you're going through the same streets on both sides. So I feel like Wargaming are always in this tricky scenario where they have to make it so that the maps are balanced, and the easiest way to create a balanced map is symmetry. But from a gameplay perspective, symmetry is boring. And if the map feels as if it plays exactly the same way, irrelevant if you spawn north or south, then that's a lack of variety and immersion that Wargaming can create. So unfortunately for me here, I didn't realize that I was going to get a bit of a crossfire from the Panzer VII as I was trying to isolate a very dangerous auto loading heavy tank in the form of the VZ55, and I was very much more focused on trying to control that engagement and hopefully not also get rammed by the VZ55, which the SW1 is very vulnerable to, and I ended up exposing myself. And when you zoom out here, you do realize just how open this map is. But let's have a fly around and I can show you the different areas that I enjoyed. So as I mentioned, the middle of the map is a playground for light tanks. There are ridges to be able to provide cover and lots of bushes to allow light tanks to be able to spot medium tanks and tank destroyers or heavy tanks as they're advancing. You've got to be careful, however, because the mid-ridge isn't the be-all, end-all spot of winning, because if your opponents manage to get up, they do have a wonderful line of fire across there. The map, when you zoom out, does feel like it's a lot more open than it plays. One thing that I really enjoyed is the fact that while you do have areas that you have to pass through where you're going to be vulnerable, it does feel as if there's lots of opportunities as well to work between ridges, and you can maybe work within your opponent's reload to be able to keep pushing and to be able to progress the map. I don't feel like this map is going to end in a stalemate. I feel as if it's going to be the more progressive team that either has the better players or the better synergy that is going to be able to take it down. I also love just how Wargaming has clearly designed all of the different areas with the mind of tank combat. Imagine being something with ridiculous gun depression here. You probably need about, I'd say 12 or 15 degrees to be able to use that position, to be able to get these lines of fire. And then for them to be creating, I don't know if it's a real world location, I can't imagine it's a real world location, and I think that's good. I think a lot of the maps that Wargaming add in, they try to base on real world locations, and it prevents them from making a fun playground to be able to fight in. And I think that this just looks like an awesome opportunity where there's going to be areas where players are going to have an advantage if they do hold, like for example these bush lines here with just a wonderful ridge to be able to hide your lower plate. But they're also very vulnerable if teams do manage to win the flanks. So we took a look at the medium tank flank inside the gameplay as we were playing our SW1. Let's go take a look where heavy tanks are going to be trundling around and existing. And that is, I guess, in this church or this cathedral over here. Interesting one. What, we've got like 2 churches and then a main building. I don't know. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to architecture. Looks like this one has seen a few better days, however. But I played around here in my E100, and I have to admit, I did end up getting absolutely butchered by a VZ55 who held this location here. And all of these little walls, they're going to be amazing for hull down vehicles. So if you've got your IS-7s, you've got your VZ55s, or even if you've got some of your Jagdpanzer 100 and you hope your opponents don't spam heat at your cheeks, then these kind of opportunities are going to be wonderful. Wargaming have even put like a cut through here underneath this religious building, and seems to be a little bit of clipping here, but I'm sure that's something that they will be able to fix out eventually. But interestingly enough, I think that Wargaming are trying to decide about whether they want this area to be able to be passed through or not, because do you see how they've put these bollards here, and they are not destructible. So Wargaming clearly want this to be an opportunity for you to side scrape and to duke it out with your opponents maybe, and also to be able to provide an ambush shot if anyone's stupid enough to be able to drive from left to right over it. I do feel like this is a bit of a missed opportunity. I like the idea of it actually being open and being a way to be able to bypass what is going to just become a nitty-gritty flank over here. When I was playing my E100 in this location, it did feel as if it was just a bit too easy to hold this kind of an area. For an IS-7 or a VZ-55, I just don't think you really have too much of a hope to be able to stop them. And I think by opening up this area, it might allow players to be able to have an opportunity to flank and to dig out people who might be camping here. And can you imagine how satisfying it would be if you have people who are... Imagine that... you're attacking from this way, so this is our side of the map, and you situate your E100 here, and you've got that VZ-55 and IS-7 sitting there. There's practically nothing that they can do. Imagine if you had your faster heavy or one of your mediums rush through here, be able to get round the corner, and now they're hull down against them. They've got the backs of your opponents, and you've got a lovely crossfire developed. So if I've got any kind of feedback for Wargaming, I need to have more games on this map before I will submit my final feedback. But right now, it does feel as if this area is kind of a bit of a stalemate, and I really think that opening up a second avenue here would make for a very interesting engagement. And it doesn't render the high ground here useless, and I think it will provide a lot of opportunity for ambush play. Right now it feels a little bit static, and yeah, Wargaming, get rid of these bollards, open it up. Maybe you can somehow make a bit of a zigzag here, or put a little bit of rubble in this location, and put a little bit of rubble in that location as well, to allow you to be able to advance through and to be more progressive. Because otherwise, trying to advance all the way down this tunnel is probably going to end up being impossible. Now, I know Wargaming have probably decided to put bollards here, because I think that as soon as you make a tunnel on a map, that people just seem to love to gravitate towards it and be able to try and push through it. And I believe that this is most likely no exception. I can imagine if they were to remove the bollards, and there'd just be a huge load of tanks kind of side scraping out from both corners, and of course it'll be very hard to be able to push through, unless of course they added a little bit of cover so you could be able to close the distances. But just as it stands right now, I feel like this location was a little bit too static, and it's just too punishing to be able to try and remove tanks that don't have weak points on top. Yeah, I'm looking at you, all of you hold down heavies. All in all, this map, this Wargaming, from my perspective, and I'd be really interested to know if any of you have played this, have you played the recon game mode, in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear your opinion. This is my favorite map they've added into the game in a long time. I love it. I can think of a position, and look, I'm even finding new intricate areas here. Just look at like the playground here, to be able to sit, to be able to stop your opponents from being able to make the push play up. But then they've got the opportunity to be able to flank around and go through the streets to be able to stop you. There's so much opportunity for movement, for flowing, for crossfire, and I really feel as if it's a map that's going to be a lot more progressive than something like a Runeberg, for example. Runeberg for me has ended up being a pretty horrible stalemate, because the corners are just too easy to hold, and the light tanks don't ever really end up with enough hit points to be able to dig out people who are sitting in hold down positions at the back of the map. I think a map like this, with so many different crisscross avenues, feels so fresh, so exciting, and it doesn't feel as if it's one of those cookie cutter corridor maps. Wargaming, if my feedback matters to you, I love what you've done with Klostertal, or Cholesterol as I'm going to be calling it. I think this is the finest work that you have done in a long time, in my perspective, with regards to maps. It might not look like the most beautiful map in World of Tanks. I think it looks nice. I think Wargaming, it still looks good. I don't think it's going to be as nice as taking screenshots as like a Sand River or a Prokhorovka, right, with regards to the lighting. But I think this downtrodden, nitty-gritty vibe that I'm getting from Klostertal just looks absolutely awesome. I can't wait to try more different types of tanks and I really hope that this one ends up going into the game, because it doesn't feel like a stereotypical city map. It doesn't feel as if it's like another Himmelsdorf or a Runeberg going into the game, and while it's probably not going to end up being the best map for your lightly armored, your light tanks, or even your lightly armored tank destroyers, there are definitely still enough platforms where you are going to be able to get substantial lines of fire from when you start to feel more comfortable, even if you're playing something like a WT Alf Panzer IV. So, Klostertal, all in all from me, fantastic. Let me know what you think about the map in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and my breakdown of it, then yeah, give the video a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And stay tuned to the channel, as I'm going to do a breakdown of 2 of the other new maps that Wargaming are presenting. And I should also just highlight exactly how you can be able to participate in it yourself, because it's very important to be able to give Wargaming the feedback, right? So recon mission, they're doing it in 2 sets of 1 week. That's going to be now until next Monday, where you can be able to get yourself some rewards that I show you at the bottom. There's reserves, there's a premium day, there's 20 bond vents that you could be able to use. Directives, I'd like to clarify, you're not just going to get 20 actual bond vents for participating in it. And the idea that you can get yourself 3 days of premium, albeit for playing 50 times each week, means that you could be running premium for free just for playing over the next couple of weeks. So check it out if you're interested. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.